The janitor at Eastbridge High was quiet, always early, always alone. Most students didn't know his name. Until one day, when a fire alarm failed during a science lab explosion, and he was already evacuating kids before the first bell rang. When the principal asked how he reacted so fast, the man simply replied, "Because I've been through worse, in Fallujah." Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to like the video. Most students at Eastbridge High only knew the man in gray coveralls as Mop Guy. He never interrupted, never smiled much, just swept the hallways before sunrise and mopped after the last bell. He moved like a shadow between lockers, efficient, silent, invisible. Teachers nodded. Students ignored him. Administrators didn't even learn his first name, which is why no one noticed anything strange the day he parked his rusted truck in a different space, or the day he brought a second duffel bag inside, or the day he began checking every fire exit by hand. It wasn't until the explosion that anyone cared. It happened just after 8 a.m. A chemical spill in Lab 3 ignited an oxygen tank stored improperly by a substitute teacher. Fire alarms failed, an ongoing maintenance issue filed but unfixed. But somehow, when the smoke started rising, the janitor was already pulling students from rooms 3 doors down, already guiding them down stairwells, already moving teachers toward exit protocols most of them had never even rehearsed. By the time the principal realized what was happening, over 200 students had evacuated. Not by system design, but by one man's instinct. Fire trucks arrived late. The fire was out before they got there. The man had used an extinguisher from a locked maintenance closet. When asked later how he got inside so fast, he simply said, "I don't lock what I might need to save someone." Local news ran the story with a shallow headline. Quick-thinking custodian averts school disaster. But online, footage from a student's phone told more. It showed the janitor walking out of the smoke with a girl on his shoulder. Calm. Focused. Carrying her like a soldier carries a wounded friend. The video went viral. "He didn't flinch," one student wrote. It was like he'd done it before. At the emergency staff meeting that afternoon, Principal Reyes sat at the front, pale and shaken. "Who is he?" she asked quietly. No one answered. Finally, a history teacher said, "His badge just says D. Walker. No file photo. No email." Reyes frowned. "How long's he been here?" 2 years, maybe. Nobody knew for sure. Outside, in the loading bay, the man sat on an overturned crate. He was wrapping gauze around a burn on his forearm with calm, practiced hands. The school nurse offered help. He declined politely. "I've had worse," he said. "A long time ago. Different country." Then he glanced at the rising smoke cloud and whispered, almost to himself, "They trained me for louder fires than this." The fire marshal's report came back in 48 hours. Cause: a mixture of oxidizing agents and a faulty valve on an O2 canister. Official conclusion: accident. But Principal Reyes wasn't satisfied. She sat in her office late that evening, reviewing footage from the school's outdated security cameras. Most angles were too grainy, too delayed. But 3 clips stood out. At 7:46 a.m., Mr. D. Walker, the janitor, was seen unlocking the south stairwell and propping it open. At 7:49, he walked through the science wing twice. On the second pass, he paused outside Lab 3. 15 seconds. No tools in hand. At 7:54, he removed a fire extinguisher from the west wing wall and placed it closer to the lab, around the corner, just out of view. The fire ignited at 8:01. The question wasn't how he responded so fast. It was how he knew. Reyes picked up the phone and called HR. "I need Walker's full file. Everything." The clerk hesitated. "There's not much. No background, just a custodial placement referral. Came through county facilities. No social? No vetting. Only ID we have is a contractor badge. Standard." Reyes hung up. Her hands trembled slightly. She wasn't afraid. Not exactly. But the story didn't add up. At home, Doyle Walker folded his uniform with mechanical precision. Not the gray jumpsuit. The real one. Folded in a wooden trunk under his bed. Camouflage faded from sun, name patch half-torn, the fabric stiff in places where sand and fire once lived. He hadn't worn it in 12 years. But he never threw it away. On top of the uniform was a worn, plastic ID. The kind that came with clearance levels most civilians didn't know existed. And taped to the back was a photo of a boy. Smiling. Missing a front tooth. Walker stared at the picture for a long time, then tucked it away again. Across town, a local veteran named Curtis Fields saw the viral school video and dropped his coffee. "That's Sergeant Doyle Walker," he whispered. His wife looked up. "Who?" "He ran evac under fire in Fallujah. Saved an entire squad when the building collapsed." "I thought he didn't make it?" Curtis nodded slowly. "We all thought that. Until now." He picked up his phone and opened a private group chat labeled Devil Dogs 2nd MEF and typed, "War Dogs alive. He's sweeping floors in Eastbridge. If you believe some heroes never stop serving, even when the world stops seeing them, type respect in the comments." Curtis Fields hadn't seen Sergeant Doyle Walker in nearly 13 years. The last time was a dust-stormed morning in southern Iraq. A half-collapsed building, screams in the smoke, and Walker dragging 2 Marines through a hole in the wall with a busted shoulder and shrapnel in his thigh. Curtis hadn't even known if he'd survived. But now the man was cleaning hallways in a high school? He couldn't believe it. He called 2 others from their old unit, one in Pennsylvania, one in Texas. They all saw the same video. Same man, same way of moving, same look. "It's him," said Alvarez. "Has to be. He disappeared after his 4th tour," another said. "No pension, no burial, no medal ceremony. Just vanished." "Maybe that was the point," Curtis replied. Meanwhile, at Eastbridge High, whispers were growing. The students started calling him Smoke Walker. Others said he used to be in the CIA. One junior claimed he had a bullet wound across his ribs and didn't feel pain. But Walker didn't address any of it. He just kept cleaning. Except now, he wasn't just sweeping. He was checking smoke detectors, inspecting gas lines in the science lab, resetting motion sensors with a small tool no one could identify. Laney, a junior who'd been pulled out of Lab 3 during the fire, caught him in the stairwell. "Hey," she said. He paused, mop in hand. "You saved my life." He gave a nod. "My mom wants to thank you." "You just did." "No. Really. She's baking something. We live on Culver. Come by." Walker looked away. "I don't do that sort of thing." Laney tilted her head. "Why?" He met her eyes, finally. "Because once people thank you, they stop seeing you." Then he turned and kept walking. Later that week, Principal Reyes found a manila envelope taped to her office door. Inside, a single-page resume, typed in courier font. Name, Doyle Walker. Rank, Staff Sergeant, USMC. Tours, Iraq 3, Afghanistan 1. Specialization, Tactical Evacuation and Field Containment. Last operation, classified. Current status, retired. At the bottom, one line handwritten in black ink. "Please let me work. It keeps me steady." Reyes stared at the paper, and for the first time in years, felt like her school was being protected by something more than policies and fire drills. Sometimes, it's not the title that saves people. It's the man holding the door before the flame touches the frame. Have you ever thanked someone too late, only to realize their quiet efforts saved more than you knew? Drop a comment. Some heroes deserve more than silence. Curtis Fields didn't sleep. At 5:17 a.m., he pulled into the Eastbridge High parking lot and waited. He didn't call ahead. Didn't knock. Walker came in at 5:42. Same pace, same coat, same lunch pail. When he saw Curtis by the flagpole, he stopped. They didn't speak for 10 seconds. Then Curtis said, "You're not dead." Walker replied, "You look like hell." They laughed, just once. Then silence again. Curtis stepped forward. "Why'd you disappear?" Walker's eyes didn't leave the sidewalk. "Because medals don't fix the weight. And I didn't want a folded flag handed to someone I loved. You saved 9 men that day. I lost 3. Curtis shook his head. "We still talk about you. Alvarez. Team Bravo. Even Vickers." Walker blinked. "Vickers made it?" "Yeah. Runs a gym now. Named his son Doyle. That one hit deeper than bullets ever had." Curtis handed him a photo taken from their deployment wall. Sand, sweat, and that ever-present grin on Walker's face, even then. "You still keeping watch?" Curtis asked. Walker nodded. "Different kind of battlefield." Curtis looked around. "You need help." "I need people to care before the smoke rises." That day, Principal Reyes invited Walker to her office. "Students want to start a safety patrol," she said. "Inspired by you." Walker tensed. "They don't know what I am. They know what you did." He shook his head. "That's the problem." Reyes leaned forward. "We've had more safety violations in the last 2 years than the decade before. But since the fire, 0. Walker stood. "I fixed things. That's all. You saved people. By habit. Not design." He left before she could answer. That night, he returned to the science wing. Checked every exit. Then sat at the top of the stairwell in the dark. He didn't sleep, didn't hum, just listened. Because he remembered what it felt like, that moment before something explodes. When the silence gets too perfect. And he felt it now. Across town, Curtis opened a locked file he hadn't touched in years. It held a contact list, a last call roster. The kind of list you only used when the war returned without warning. He typed a message. Walker's active. Something's coming. We might need a net again. He didn't expect replies. But within the hour, 3 came back. On standby. Just say when. For him? I owe my life. If you believe those who carry their duty into everyday life deserve more than a passing glance, type never forget in the comments. The next incident was almost invisible. A student found a smoke detector turned upside down in the west stairwell. Harmless, but odd. 2 days later, a locker near the chemistry lab had its hinges loosened from the inside, like someone had been tampering from within. Walker noticed both. Didn't report them. He just walked the halls longer. Started arriving before sunrise. Added an extra loop to his route. At lunch, Owen, the senior who once called him Mop Guy, approached. I saw you at the lab again. Walker glanced at him. I'm not spying. Just watching. Like you. Walker paused. Then handed Owen a folded paper. Inside, a diagram of the school, marked with red X's on fire hazards and blue O's on escape zones. Why are you giving this to me? Owen asked. You see things. Not like you. You will. That afternoon, a visitor came to the school. Said he was from state facilities, a man in a tailored suit with an ID badge too crisp to be real. He asked about building layout. Asked about Walker. Principal Reyes didn't answer. Instead, she messaged Curtis. Someone asked for Doyle. Should I worry? Curtis responded. If they know his name, yes. That evening, Walker sat in the maintenance closet, sharpening a small utility blade. Not for use, but for memory. It calmed his hands. At 7:04 p.m., a knock. It was Lainey, the girl he'd carried from the fire. My mom wants to invite you for dinner again. Walker shook his head gently. She baked lasagna, Lainey added. He exhaled, smiled just slightly. I'll think about it. She stepped away, but left behind a napkin. On it, a quote in marker. Some heroes don't wear capes. Some carry buckets. He folded it, slipped it in his pocket. Back in town, Curtis met with 2 others at a diner. Marines. Older. Weathered. All had that same alert calm. You think he's in danger? One asked. Curtis stirred his coffee. He's not. But someone else will be. You think they'll come for the school? Curtis nodded. They want to see if he'll stop them again. What do we do? Curtis looked out the window. We wait. Until he signals. Meanwhile, in the teacher's lounge, Principal Reyes opened her inbox. No sender. No subject. Just one line. He's not who you think he is. But he's exactly who you need. Some warriors never stop scanning the room. They just change uniforms. If you've ever felt safer simply because someone was there, without asking, without speaking, drop a thank you in the comments. Quiet guards deserve loud gratitude. The janitor keys didn't rattle anymore, not because they were gone, but because Walker had memorized every lock. He didn't need to fumble. He didn't need to search. He just moved. That Thursday, at 2:11 a.m., the motion detector near Lab 3 tripped. No alarm because Walker had rewired it to alert only him. He reached the wing in under 30 seconds. Saw nothing. Until he smelled it. Not smoke. Oil. Accelerant. He followed the trail under the lockers. Found a capped glass vial wedged beneath a radiator pipe. Next to it, a timer, small, blinking. He knelt, breath steady, and disabled it with fingers that hadn't trembled since Ramadi. At 7 a.m., students returned as if nothing had happened. But Owen noticed Walker was quieter, and his eyes didn't blink as much. He followed him to the loading dock and asked, "Are we being targeted?" Walker didn't answer. Owen pressed again. "Why you? Why the school?" Walker finally spoke. "Because someone's testing boundaries. Mine." Meanwhile, Curtis got a message. It came as a photo, the same vial, the same signature etched in its glass. Project Cinder. Origin classified. He called Alvarez. "This isn't random." "I know," Alvarez replied. "We ran that op years ago. Target destroyed. Program ended. Or so we thought." Curtis exhaled. "They're reactivating it. Through him." That evening, Reyes held an emergency staff meeting. She didn't name Walker. She didn't say what was found. But she did tell the teachers, security will change. Routes will adjust. And if you see something strange, do not investigate alone. That same night, Walker returned to his trunk, removed a folder labeled Cinderfall, post-blackout debrief. Inside, redacted files, burned photos, and a list of survivors. Only one name remained unmarked. D. Walker. He drew a line through it, then picked up his radio, a device no student would ever see, a channel no one had used in 12 years. He keyed the mic. Unit Greyfire. Code Echo active. Fall protocol beginning. Perimeter holds. Confirm. Static. Then a voice. Perimeter confirmed. Watch begins. If you believe some people are quietly saving lives behind the scenes, without fanfare, medals, or headlines, type Guardian in the comments. Because not all shields are visible. It started at 10:07 a.m. during second period. A delivery truck, unmarked, pulled into the rear service lane behind Eastbridge High. No scheduled drop-offs. No known contractors. The front office radioed Walker. He was already at the gate. The driver never stepped out. Just sat still, engine humming. Walker moved to the blind side. Checked the axle. Underneath, a signal booster, wired, blinking. He keyed his private channel. Echo trace confirmed. Phase 1 live. Then calmly knocked on the driver's window. The man flinched. Walker leaned in. You missed your window. The driver tried to start the engine again. Didn't work. Curtis had cut the ignition line from 2 blocks away. The sheriff arrived 4 minutes later. Walker handed over the signal booster. Same signature as the Lab 3 vial, he said. They were planning synchronized detonations. Small, controlled, meant for panic, not casualties. Why? Walker didn't answer at first. Then, because chaos sells. That afternoon, the school board called an emergency session. Principal Reyes didn't attend. She stood with Walker, side by side, as the truck was towed. He knew, she said softly. Before it even happened. Walker didn't blink. I saw the pattern. Later, Owen found Walker in the boiler room. You stopping now? Walker shook his head. We're not done. He handed Owen a list. Students, staff, locals, quiet observers, people who notice details. Train them, Walker said. Not for battle. For vigilance. That night, he removed the last file from his trunk. Greyfire. Inside, a page with 3 signatures. His, Alvarez's, Curtis's, and a note at the bottom. The day one of us calls Echo, the others come. Curtis arrived the next morning. He parked behind the gym, walked inside, and found Walker checking the fire system. Without a word, Curtis took out a wrench and helped him. Because warriors don't need invitations. They just show up. Have you ever seen someone build a wall of safety so quietly that no one noticed until the storm hit? Say their name in the comments. Let's give the quiet guards their moment. Walker never said goodbye. He just left a folded note on the janitor's desk. System secured. Eyes remain. The next morning, he was gone. Owen found the mop leaned perfectly upright. Floor polished. Locker doors aligned. It felt like someone had swept out more than dust. At the war memorial near the football field, someone placed a single pair of military dog tags beside a small photo of Lab 3's door. No name. Just a word. Prevented. Curtis stayed behind. Not to replace Walker, but to remind others how to watch. Because the work never ended. Just passed hands. If you believe some heroes don't retire, they prepare others, type Watcher in the comments. Because silence isn't absence. It's vigilance. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let YouTube promote stories of kindness.